Is it possible to connect with someone on a deep level who feels like they're not seeing you, who maybe even seems like they have a negative perception of you? In this episode of Deep Calling Deep, I'm going to tell you about my own experience with this and maybe give you some hope that this is indeed possible. I'm Sonja and this is Holiness Connection. Today I want to do another short video in my Deep Calling Deep series in which I explore ways that we can connect with others in our world on a deeper level. I want to start with a quote from the Gospel of Thomas that has many of Jesus' sayings in it. Let me just grab that so I can read it directly. So this is from a book called, this translation is the Luminous Gospels. So in Logian 21, it's just the beginning of it that I'm going to read to you. Miriam said, "Then tell us, Master, what your students are like. How would you describe them?" He answered, "They are like small children living in a field not their own. When the landlords return and demand, 'Give us back our field,' the children return it by simply stripping themselves and standing naked before them." And so there is a lot to be gleaned from that short saying, that even part of that Logian. But it's actually become one of my touchstone values in my spiritual life. And it's kind of hard to put this one into words. That stripping naked that's talked about, though, I take to mean sort of a combination between authenticity, transparency, but maybe even more essentially a kind of non-clinging. You can just sense that someone's coming at them upset, and it's just standing there and just kind of letting go, like just being, not reacting, just kind of just being authentic and vulnerable and open, but not trying to cling to any particular result. So now I want to tell you about an experience I had in a retreat about a decade ago, I think. So it was a fairly small retreat. I can't remember how many people, maybe 15, 20 people at the retreat. And I could tell that a young woman there, I was older than her, I just had this sense, how sometimes you can get a sense that someone, I don't know if it's exactly doesn't like you, but like I just had the sense that she thought negatively in some way or didn't have a good impression of me. And I had barely talked to her, so I figured it was kind of a projection. We project on people all the time, for all kinds of psychological reasons. Maybe someone reminds us of someone else. So I kind of had that sense that she didn't like me or didn't have a favorable impression of me. She may have even been a little curt one time that gave me that impression. I can't quite remember. That was the case going into sort of a more of an event that we were doing as a group in this bigger room that we would do sort of movement and some dance and things like that in. And so we went into this exercise that was going to be about mirroring, and the first part was individual, moving around in our own way and having some directions on how to move. And then at one point the music stopped, and then that was going to be our partner for the next part of that particular exercise. And of course it was the young woman and me, and that did not feel accidental to me. And so there we were, and we were supposed to put our hands together like this and then start to do sort of a mirroring dance where we were following each other. And it was really interesting because I think it helped that I hadn't felt reactive about her impression of me earlier. So I hadn't felt indignant about it or anything like that. But in this moment in particular, I just felt really open to her, and I could still see in her face the sort of same feeling about me, or at least that's what I was perceiving. And so our dance she led to start with, and it started that way, kind of with this sort of, I don't know how to describe it with it because there was a little bit of pushing against the palms, more of a resistant, not really aggressive isn't the right word, but just like maybe a little faster and pushing against the hands kind of movement. And I just remember feeling so open to her and feeling that sense, like as described in that Gospel of Thomas saying by Jesus, that the sense of just being there with her and just in this deeper space of just knowing here we are together, and just not worrying about, not clinging to the fact of whatever she thinks of me. And she sensed it. So we just first started with that just tiny bit of resistance, and really fast in, maybe just even only 15 seconds in or something, I saw when she got it, you could see in her eyes, and she just smiled. And then we went into this much easier dance, and we're really flowing with each other. And then after that, ever since, I didn't have any huge conversations with her or anything, but just afterwards, that whole tension thing, whatever that was going on from her to me, was gone. And for the rest of the retreat, but we had this beautiful experience together doing that mirroring dance. So hopefully that gives you some hope that it is possible. Some circumstances, of course, are more intense than that. But I do think that it's possible that kind of going into that deep space and that not clinging with someone can really do nothing except benefit trying to connect with that other person on the deep level. And so I would recommend trying that. I mean, it helps if you're not, if you're really reactive about something, it might not be so easy to go into that space. So the more practice you've had with it, the easier it gets. So you may need to just do other kinds of, taking your deep breath or whatever you normally would do from a psychological perspective. But if you're able to get into that deeper space and feel that sense of just like being open, non-clinging, not trying to make someone think any particular way about you, but just being right there with them, it can sometimes make a big turnaround. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, I would always love to hear anyone else's experiences or suggestions about how we can connect with each other in these deeper ways.